You are 19 years old when you carry your first package across the border, not because you are evil, not because you grew up dreaming about crime, because your mother's electricity bill is 3 weeks overdue, your younger brother needs asthma medication, and the warehouse job cut your hours again. The man who offers you the job never uses the word smuggling. He says, just drive the car across. That's it. $300 for one trip. $300 is more money than you usually make in a week. So now you are sitting behind the wheel of a faded silver Honda at 2:14 a.m., inching toward a border checkpoint under harsh white floodlights. Your hands won't stop sweating. The package is hidden behind the rear interior panel. You never saw what was inside. You didn't ask. The less you know, the safer you are. That's what they told you. Ahead of you, customs officers inspect another vehicle. A dog circles the trunk. You feel your heartbeat in your throat. The borderline itself is only a few feet wide, but psychologically, it feels like stepping between two completely different lives. Before tonight, you were just broke. After tonight, you become useful. The officer finally waves you forward. He asks where you're going. You answer too quickly. Your voice cracks slightly. For 2 seconds, his eyes stay on your face. Then he hands back your passport. Drive safe. That's it. No alarms, no arrest, no dramatic moment. You cross the checkpoint, and suddenly the fear transforms into adrenaline, so powerful it almost feels euphoric. By sunrise, someone hands you a thick envelope with $300 inside. Cash, no taxes, no paperwork, no questions. You tell yourself it's temporary. 1 trip becomes 3, 3 becomes 12. Soon you stop feeling nervous at checkpoints. You start learning patterns. Which officers work night shift? Which routes get inspected less often? Which vehicles attract attention? Which ones disappear into traffic? You are no longer just driving. You are learning systems. And systems are where real money lives. Because the people above you aren't brave. They aren't reckless. They are organized. That realization changes everything. By the end of your first year, you have carried electronics, counterfeit medication, illegal cash bundles, and eventually drugs. You never meet the suppliers, never meet the buyers. You exist in the middle, invisible, replaceable, but valuable enough that they keep calling. Your checking account still looks empty. Because smart smugglers don't use banks. But hidden inside your apartment walls is more cash than your mother has seen in her entire life. And for the first time since childhood, you stop being afraid of bills. That feeling becomes addictive, more addictive than the product itself. Level 2. At 23, you no longer carry packages. You coordinate routes, which sounds less dangerous. It is not. Now your phone never stops vibrating. Drivers asking for directions, corrupt contacts demanding payment, suppliers changing schedules, border delays, weather reports. You begin sleeping in 90-minute intervals because international shipments move 24 hours a day. You own 4 phones now. Each phone serves a different purpose. One for runners, one for suppliers, one for emergencies. One that only rings when something has gone very wrong. That 4th phone becomes the most terrifying sound in your life. You make around $14,000 a week now. More money than your high school teachers. More money than your old warehouse manager. More money than most people your age can imagine. But your life becomes strangely smaller. You stop posting online, stop tagging locations, stop trusting strangers. You enter restaurants facing exits. You memorize license plates around your apartment. You learn that paranoia is not mental illness in this world. It is survival instinct. One night, one of your drivers disappears. No warning, no explanation. His phone goes dead halfway through Arizona. The shipment vanishes with him. $48,000 gone. Your boss doesn't yell. That's worse. He simply asks, "Can you fix it?" You spend the next 72 hours tracking rumors through truck stops, motel parking lots, burner phones, and people who never look directly into your eyes. Eventually you find the driver, or what's left of him. His van sits abandoned near a desert road. Doors open. No product inside. No driver either. Just blood on the steering wheel. That is the moment you fully understand the rules of this business. Money matters. But silence matters more. From then on you become colder, more efficient. You stop asking emotional questions. You stop wanting emotional answers. And strangely, that makes you successful. Because smugglers who survive are not the boldest. They are the least emotional. By 24, you oversee routes through 3 states. Drivers report to you directly. People lower their voices when you enter rooms. And yet, you still cannot tell your family what you actually do. Your mother thinks you work in logistics. You let her believe it, because hearing the truth out loud would make it real. Level 3. At 27, your operations become international. Now you spend more time in airports than apartments. Dubai, Panama, Singapore, Rotterdam, places where shipping containers move by the millions, and customs officers cannot realistically inspect everything. That is where fortunes hide. You no longer deal in small packages. Now you move entire containers. Counterfeit luxury goods, weapons parts, restricted pharmaceuticals, cash, people, especially people. Human smuggling pays differently. The money is enormous. The guilt is heavier. You tell yourself you are helping desperate families escape poverty. Sometimes that is true. Sometimes you are delivering people into worse lives than the ones they fled. You stop thinking about it too deeply. Because morality slows decision-making, and slow decision-making gets people caught. You now make nearly $1.8 million a year. Your apartment overlooks the ocean. You wear tailored clothing, own luxury watches, fly business class internationally. From the outside, you look successful, respectable even. That illusion becomes your strongest weapon, because nobody suspects the well-dressed man calmly drinking espresso in airport lounges. That man does not look dangerous. That man looks educated, professional, safe, which is exactly why he survives. But wealth changes relationships. Friends become curious. Family members ask questions. Women become interested in your money before they become interested in you. You begin separating people into categories. Useful, dangerous, temporary. One evening in Belgium, you sit across from a Serbian smuggler old enough to be your father. He studies you carefully before saying, "The border isn't the dangerous part. The people are." At the time, you think he means law enforcement. Years later, you realize he meant everyone. Partners, drivers, suppliers, customers, even yourself. Especially yourself. Because the higher you rise, the more normal your lifestyle starts to feel. Private drivers stop feeling luxurious. Cash-filled duffel bags stop feeling shocking. Bribing officials starts feeling procedural. You adapt to criminality the same way normal people adapt to office jobs. Slowly, then completely. And that is what makes this level dangerous. Not the crime itself, the normalization of it. Level 4. At 31, you no longer move products. You move information. And information is worth more than cocaine, more than weapons, more than cash, because information controls risk. You oversee shipping routes across multiple countries now, ports, air cargo facilities, private trucking companies, warehouse networks, entire legitimate businesses quietly connected to illegitimate operations underneath. You employ accountants, lawyers, cybersecurity specialists, former customs officers. This no longer resembles street crime. It resembles a corporation. Your organization generates over $40 million annually, and yet your personal life is almost empty. You cannot maintain relationships because trust itself becomes mathematically impossible. Every new person entering your life represents potential exposure, potential betrayal, potential surveillance. You install cameras in your own home, use encrypted devices, change vehicles every few months. You begin waking up at night convinced you heard footsteps outside. Sometimes you actually did. One of your closest coordinators gets arrested in Spain. You immediately shut down 4 routes, destroy phones, transfer funds, move safe houses. For 72 straight hours you barely sleep. Not because you care about prison anymore, but because prison would mean losing control. And control has become your real addiction. You remember the terrified 19-year-old sweating at the checkpoint? That version of you still feared consequences. Now consequences feel abstract, distant, like weather forecasts that never arrive. Until one afternoon, they finally do. A federal investigation begins linking multiple international seizures together. Patterns emerge, names surface, yours included, for the first time in years. You feel genuine fear again. Not panic, not stress. Fear. Because deep down, every smuggler knows the same truth. Nobody retires comfortably from this world. Eventually someone disappears. Eventually someone cooperates. Eventually someone talks. And systems built on secrecy always collapse the same way. From the inside. Level 5, at 36, you become almost impossible to trace. No assets in your name. No direct communications. No predictable location. You exist through layers of intermediaries now. People deliver messages for people who deliver messages for you. Entire operations run without anyone ever seeing your face. Law enforcement agencies know your alias, but proving anything becomes difficult. That is the level where smugglers become myths, rumors, stories. You hear your own name mentioned in documentaries online, some details accurate, most completely wrong. Strangely, you stop feeling human, because humans leave evidence. Humans have routines. Humans build lives. You have built avoidance. You rent temporary villas in different countries, sleep with passports hidden under mattresses, carry emergency cash in hidden compartments. You trust nobody completely. One night, while watching cargo ships move across a dark harbor, you realize something terrifying. You won't know how to live normally anymore, even if you escaped, even if you vanished, even if you somehow became rich enough to stop. Your nervous system has adapted to danger permanently. Silence itself now feels suspicious. Calmness feels unnatural. You have spent 17 years preparing for threats, and eventually you become one, because fear changes people, slowly, then entirely. One morning, you receive a message from an old contact. They arrested Dre, the same man who gave you your first run at 19, the beginning of everything. You stare at the message for a long time, because suddenly, the timeline becomes visible. Everyone before you disappeared eventually, and someday, someone younger will say the same thing about you. Level 6. It happens at 4:43 a.m. Hard knocks against reinforced glass, then shouting, then silence. You are standing inside a luxury apartment in Lisbon when your encrypted phone lights up with 3 words. They found you. Your stomach drops instantly. Not because of surprise, Because every smuggler rehearses this moment mentally for years. You destroy devices first, then drives, then documents. But deep down, you already understand. If they reached this address, the investigation ended months ago. International warrants hit simultaneously. Accounts frozen, contacts disappearing, safe houses compromised. The network collapses faster than you imagined possible. Because criminal empires never actually fall slowly. They appear strong right until the exact second they fail. By afternoon, international news channels use your face, your aliases, your routes, your operations. The mythology disappears instantly. Now you are just another arrested man in handcuffs. Extradition takes months. Trials take years. The courtroom feels strangely smaller than your old life. Federal prosecutors describe your organization using charts, timelines, and transaction records projected onto giant screens. Your entire empire reduced to evidence folders. You sit silently while families of trafficking victims speak. Former partners testify. Drivers cooperate. People you protected for years save themselves by destroying you. That hurts more than prison itself. Eventually the sentence arrives. 32 years. The courtroom becomes quiet. You barely react externally. But internally, you realize something horrifying. You spent your entire adult life outrunning cages, only to build one yourself. Level 7. Prison removes illusion slowly. At first you still think like a smuggler, counting risks, watching people, planning futures. Then years pass, and eventually survival becomes smaller, simpler. Wake up, eat, exercise, sleep, repeat. Your hair turns grey. Your mother dies while you are still incarcerated. You attend the funeral through a monitored prison video call that destroys something inside you permanently. Because suddenly, all the money, routes, passports, and operations feel absurdly small compared to one thing you can never smuggle back: time. At 51, after decades inside systems built from concrete and steel, you finally understand borders differently. Not countries, not checkpoints, not customs lines. The real border was always internal. The line between survival and greed, between fear and power, between enough and more, and almost nobody notices crossing it until they are already too far away to return. One afternoon during prison recreation hour, you watch birds moving freely above the fences. No passports, no checkpoints, no cargo, no fear. Just movement. Natural movement. You stare longer than necessary, because after spending your entire life moving illegal things across borders, you finally understand freedom had nothing to do with crossing them at all. And for the first time in decades, you stop planning escape routes.